When Nathan came to me and asked if I would be willing to share, and by the way, when we get to 5 minutes from the end, jump up. Okay, because I can say it all in 5 minutes. The rest of it's filler. I'm just kidding. So, I was thinking about this kid I heard about. He went for his first job interview, and it was at a grocery store. Fine, I won't say which one it was, but he went into the store and he met with the manager, and the manager thought, well, this is a sharp kid, but I'm busy, but I'd like him to start. And so he said, you know what, here's what you do. Go down to the produce aisle, and I've got some things happening here, and you get started down there, and do whatever it is you do. Shine the apples, I don't know, go down there and make friends. And in a few minutes I'll come down and make sure that you're set and you're ready for your day. So the kid makes his way down there, and he's stacking up oranges, and he's doing whatever it is that you might do in produce when you don't know what you're doing. And this little old lady comes up to him, and she says, young man, I would like to have half a head of lettuce. Well, the kid's been on the job for 5 minutes. He doesn't know, what's the protocol here? This is way above his pay grade. So he decides that he would take this head of lettuce, and he starts working his way back to the manager. Unbeknownst to him, the little old lady, she follows him along. He doesn't know. He gets back to the manager and he says, hey, I was down there in the produce aisle, and this old bag there, she wants half a head of lettuce. Well, she's standing right here. The manager's eyes get really big, and this kid is perceptive. He's quick on his feet. He knows what's going on. He can read the signs. And he says, and this lovely lady, she'd like to have the other half. Well, so the manager says, well, yeah, he sends her back, and the kid cuts the thing, goes on about his way. So he's down there, he's doing whatever it is, he's yucking it up with people and smiling and stacking oranges, and the manager says, now that kid, he's got a future in produce, so I got to get down there and I got to talk to him. So toward the end of the day, he goes down, and he finds the young man, and he says, now, young man, he said, I was just so impressed with how quick you were on your feet and how you handled that situation earlier. He said, where are you from? And the kid goes, well, I'm from Toronto, Canada, the home of beautiful hockey players and ugly women. The manager's eyes get as big as saucers again. He goes, my wife is from Toronto, Canada. And the kid goes, oh, well, what team did she play for? So, customer service, that's the point. That was the best customer service story I had. True story. No, it wasn't. I made it up on my way here. No, but I think all of us, regardless of what it is that you do or who you are, at some point, we're engaged in the process of customer service. And, maybe that sounds a little cheesy, and maybe that's not what you came here to hear about today, but if you really kind of think about that, and you identify who it is that you serve, it's pretty important. And we all have customers. And what I wanted to talk with you about today is not just generic customer service, but how a school district can serve its customers and how we can work together to be even more effective in doing that. And so, the first thing that we have to think about is that we're a part of a bigger picture. Whatever it is that you do, you're a part of something that's bigger than you. And now if you don't get that, you're in trouble. If you think you're it and you've arrived, then we got some issues. But I don't think anybody here is thinking that. I've bumped into a few people that think that, and you don't get very far with them. They don't play well with others, So, but we want to serve our community. And so when I speak with folks at the school and we talk about how we're going to influence this next generation of kids, or how when you got about 200 people that work for you, you're going to have trouble. Now, there are bigger organizations and there are smaller ones, but we're big enough that I know it's a pain in the neck. And it's a daily grind. It's a tough thing, and all of you are, in the trenches, on the front lines, working with people and working with employees and working with customers who come, and they're not that easy to serve. Some people are very easy to serve, They're very nice, they're very polite, they might have a problem, and they say, well, Mr. Leichner, I'm worried about my son, Jimmy. Piece of cake. I don't get too many of those meetings. Generally, by the time something ends up on my desk, it's gone through 3 or 4 other layers and it hasn't worked out, and they come in and they are loaded for bear. And so who is it that we serve? Well, certainly it's kids. We have kids from 4-year-olds all the way up through some that are older than they should be. But we also serve a community. We're right dead center in the middle of Chautauqua County, and the Cassadaga Valley Central School District is quite a large place geographically. And all of the people that live there are our customers. They're people that I serve. And when you think about what can you do as a school leader to serve these people, that's an interesting thing, because quite often, and I think one of the things I've learned over time is generally, and don't say anything out loud, and don't go back to tell anybody, you didn't hear from me today. This is all, what do you call it, a clandestine rendezvous. But because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. And I'm not saying that everybody has to do it the way I do it, because you know that. You do what you do because of who you are, right? And you have to be comfortable with that. And you have to find out, well, who is it that I am? And that's an important question to ask yourself. And then once you identify that, once you kind of know inside who you are, then you can go on about doing stuff, right? Because we're human beings, not human doings. It's who are you that makes a difference in terms of what you can do. And it's important to realize that some people can do things that I can't do. So I shouldn't do those things. And I should be comfortable with that. I can do what I do. I'm still figuring it out. Some people that work with me every day are wondering, what is it that you do? But we serve the larger community there. And as a school, quite often, I think historically, schools have probably been very good at asking for things. We ask our residents for their kids, and we want them to be prepared. We ask them for their tax dollars, and then next year we ask for more, right? All those kinds of things. We ask, we ask, we ask. Well, can we give? Yeah, we should. And the most effective people, and you know this, and we're talking about, ultimately, if you say business church, any form of business, part of the deal is you'd like to succeed. Going belly up isn't the point, regardless of what business you're in. If you're in the church business, or if you're in the accounting business, or if you're in the school business, you don't want to find out that a year from now you're worse off than you were a year ago. You want to be going in the right direction. And so the best way to get there, from my perspective, is to share, to work with people cooperatively, to kind of get out of the way, step back, evaluate your resources. What tools do I have? And then how do my tools work with your tools? So that together we can get more done than if it's just me trying to keep everything I got right here, and I'm afraid you might get some of it. Now, I understand that some of you are coming from the business perspective where there is a level of competition. If I make widgets and you make widgets, we got some of the same customers. Our clientele could be the same. So I don't necessarily want you to know all my secrets. Well, I don't know. Think about it. If you've got a special sauce on your burgers, I get that it's the family recipe and you're not just going to put that in the newspaper because, then maybe that kind of steals some of your identity. But think through that and understand that if you got something special that nobody else has, maybe you have it for a reason. And I'm not saying give everything away and belly up yourself, but think about that. Let that just chew on that for a while. We're in it together. Everybody in this room. And many of you I'm meeting for the first time today. And we're in this together? Yeah, that's pretty cool. We don't even know why yet or how in some respects, but we're in it together. And that's a pretty cool thing. It's almost like water running, and then all of a sudden it gets together and all these little streams, and I'm the brook that is sometimes loud but always crooked. I'm just going every which way, but I just keep going downhill. And eventually we could form something that's pretty significant. that could move some things along, right? Once we join forces and we become a river instead of a creek. You know, it depends on where you're from. It could be a creek. It could be a stream. Where I'm from, it's a creek. You know, well, I'm just a creek. You know, started out as a drip, made it up to a creek. You know, eventually I'll join some of y'all and we'll be a river. And then look out. That's a pretty cool idea too. So, you know, I remember when I was a kid, way back, you know, way back there in the time when I was in Frewsburg. And you know, back before the internet, I don't know if you've heard of the internet, but back then they didn't have that. And it was hard times. Like if you wanted to change the channel on TV, you had to get up and walk over to the darn thing. One time when I've got 3 kids and they're all great and smarter than me and cool, and I said, we're having 70s Day. What does that mean, Dad? You can't do anything that we couldn't do in the 1970s. Well, what does that mean? Go outside and play. I don't care. I don't want to see you till dark. That was pretty much 1970s. But then when you did come in, you know, you'd have to turn. I'd say you can watch 3 channels, and you got to turn. They were fit to be tied. It was darn near child abuse. I mean, you go ahead and try and do that today. And then that was before the kids all had cell phones. If you're going to talk to somebody, you got to do it in the kitchen, and your mother and I have to hear you. Because remember how you'd stretch the phone, try to get around behind a door? Forget about it. So I was in Frewsburg, and our arch rival was Falconer. They were miles away. And because there was no internet, we didn't know any of them people over there. They were the devil. We wanted to beat them at everything we could. And whether it was football, basketball, or baseball, I lived my life to beat Falconer. And in many respects, if a year, you could have lost every game, but you beat Falconer was a success. Now, back then, Frewsburg had a baseball team. Oh, boy, did we have a baseball team. We won the sectional championship, you know, and it was mostly because of me and a couple of other guys, you know, like Shane Conlon and his brother Kevin, you know, just nothing. I always say Shane Conlon was a success in the NFL in large part because of me, because when he was a sophomore and I was a senior, I let him be the starting running back. So, you know, I thought Falconer was horrible. And then I went away to college. I went to JCC, Falconer Street University over there, you know, and I met some kids from Falconer, and guess what? They were just like me. And then I ended up working there, and I loved the place. Now, we have some of those kinds of issues in our businesses, in our schools, and dare I say, in our churches. Now, I'm not here to, who am I? What do I know? But when you start thinking like that, like somehow they're different than you, or you're better than them, or they're bad and you're good and not, listen, we're not going to succeed today. Maybe you could back in the 70s, before the internet and all that stuff. I don't know. I was too young then and didn't know anything. I knew less then than I do now, which is hard to believe. But if you can't kind of get off your high horse and share with everybody and realize that if I don't work with you, then it impacts everybody else, and in order to get it all done, we all got to lock arms. We got to work together. We can't just be, I'm in my silo, you're in your, I'm at Cassadaga Valley. Well, Falconer and Bemis Point and Pine Valley and Randolph, and we don't talk with them. No, we're going to share everything we can. And I'm always the guy at the table. You know, we have these superintendent meetings. It's super important. And everybody's sitting around the room, and I'll come up with some harebrained idea like, why don't we do something together? And then they all get nervous because, well, I've got limited resources. Well, that's the point, you knucklehead. You can't print that. You got to edit that. I didn't say. I read that somewhere. It wasn't me. But no, you understand what I'm saying. So it can no longer be who's in charge, who's most powerful, who's important. You know, we agree more than we disagree. As schools, for sure. As businesses, for sure. As churches, for sure. Now, I don't care if you come from the Charismatic Holy Roller Tabernacle, right? That would be a good name of a church. Or the First Baptist Church. or whatever church it is, somewhere in there, you agree more than you disagree. There are some finer points of dogma that you may disagree on. Just like there is when I talk with the superintendent at Pine Valley, or I talk to the superintendent at Maple Grove, or I talk to the superintendent in Fredonia, there's some things that they do because of their community and culture that we don't do, or there's things that they do because of who they are that I wouldn't do, and there's certainly things I do that they wouldn't do. But that's a small portion because we're speaking the same language. You know, when I say, well, we've got this for fund balance, and this is what we're going to do for our non-instructional staff, they do the same stuff. And when you talk with people in business, you speak the same language. Maybe you're not creating the exact same thing. Maybe they don't have the same secret sauce that you've got, right? But we're in this together, so how can you really be in it together? I mean, to say we're in it together is one thing. To get in it together is another thing, because then you gotta put yourself aside a little bit. You know, you can't really get anywhere until you're willing to hear the truth against yourself. In whatever area of business you are. So if I'm a school leader, I don't know everything. I mean, I'm way smarter than everybody there. Just ask me. You know, but seriously, I have to be willing to learn. I've been doing this for a long time. But I have to be willing to learn and listen and grow and change and work and share. And sharing is the whole deal. Stop being selfish. You know, in education, we say, what's best for kids? You know, well, get a mantra. Isn't it what's best for our community? Isn't it really? I mean, that's why we're all here. So you might be building something, cooking something, plumbing something, teaching something, I don't know, whatever something you got. You're here for a reason, and you're trying to have an impact on Western New York, and ultimately you'd love to see some people's lives changed. And they don't know why, and maybe you don't either, and you don't have to. You're just a crick. Just keep running. You know, another one that's my favorite, I like sayings. My old man used to have, he had a whole book of them. But one of my favorites is you can't steer a parked car. Now, well, I don't know where to go. Well, sit in there for a while. See if you get a revelation. I don't know. Pack the thing up. Well, I'm packed up, Barry. You know, I got everything on top, and I got my tent, and I got my clothes, and I got full of, but we're just not quite sure where we're going. How many of us are like that? Every week, I didn't mean to preach, but every week, Phil, put a little more in the car. Put a little more in the car. Well, we're just here. We're just getting everything God's got for us. What are you going to do with it? Right. Drive. Well, we might run out of gas or scratch the car. That's the whole point. Right. Wreck the thing. Somebody will come along and help you put it back on the road. So, a couple of overused proverbial statements that may not fit into your theological background. I don't know. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's a good one. Now, I don't know what verse that is. Right? But there's some truth in there. I'm not saying it is the truth. I'm saying there's some truth there. You want to go fast, go by yourself. Go run. Go see how you do. See ya. Have fun. But if you want to go far, get a few partners with you. Some accountability, maybe. Because if you're alone, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, because you don't care. You're running. But if you have a few people with you, then they can say, hey, listen, just a second there. Why'd you do that? Or maybe you shouldn't do that. Or maybe, and then you can talk it out. You can get better. Another one, it takes a village to raise a child. Now, wow, boy, there's a politically loaded statement, and maybe a Democrat said that. Well, actually, nobody knows who said it. You know, they said, well, it was an African proverb, but nobody in Africa knows where it came from either. So it's just a saying, and, you know, it's kind of true. And the point is this. It takes all of us to get this thing done. There isn't any one of us, no matter how doggone smart you are, or rich you are, or lucky you are, or whatever you are. You can't do it yourself because some people don't like you. I always tell teachers, administrators, anybody that will listen, now I'm telling you, and you're stuck here, you'll reach some people, but you won't reach them all. So you got to find somebody that can reach the ones you can't reach. And you got to reach them before you can teach them. So if you just run up against somebody, and it just isn't going to happen, whatever it is, this door won't open up, you call it whatever religious thing you want to call it. If you're with some other people, maybe somebody else can take care of that. And that's the beauty of it. So how do we share? Well, as a school district, and that's what I wanted to share, and I'm assuming I have at least 6 minutes left. Is that true? Thank you. I've got this timed. We share with municipalities, Stockton, Cassadaga, Gary, Sinclairville. Those places are all doing business. Now, stop recording. One of the things, I'm joking, but one of the things that they've approached us on is they realize that, boy, are they doing things that are redundant. Everybody's got a snowplow. Everybody's got a big truck. Everybody's got road equipment. Everybody's got gas pumps. Everybody's got a building. Right? Because you need to do all that stuff to keep up your little thing. If this applies to anything that you might also be doing, think about it. Like, is there any entity that you're a part of where there's another one down the road that does pretty much the same thing? Church? The thing about growing up in Frewsburg was there was a whole boatload of churches and a whole boatload of bars. They're all pretty much still running. No, I'm not going to go any farther. But it's not all bad. It's not all bad. There's still, Cassadaga is still a school. Been a school for a long time. I hope to be a school for a long time. But I hope that as we move forward, we share more with those that are around about us. And so those municipalities have come to us, and this is thinking way outside the box, and we're working with people at New York State who aren't exactly sure what to do with it. But they said, what if we put a building on the land that the school owns, and we centralized all our stuff? And then there's this big truck. And on Monday and Tuesday, Sinclairville used it, and on Wednesday, Gary used it, and on Thursday, Stockton used it, and on Friday, Cassadaga used it, and whenever it needed to be used, we used it. But we didn't have 4 trucks. And then we could plow your driveway, and then you could use our gas pumps. And then you could use our internet connection, and then you could use our auditorium. And then and then we started doing that, and guess what? We could share everything. Now, there's an idea. Had to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. No, you know what you had to be? You had to be willing to give up a little bit of your pride that you own this dumb thing. Check that. That you own this. Because none of them are a dumb thing. I was over-exaggerating to make a point. Because Gary is doing the right thing, and Sinclairville's doing the right thing, and Cassadaga's doing the right thing, and Stockton's doing the right thing, and the school's doing the right thing, and maybe we could do the right thing together, and we'd be even righter. We'd be more righter. And businesses could do that. Now, I'm not a business guru. I'm not a genius. I mean, I was born at night, but wasn't last night. But I mean, But if you shared, even your thinking. Whenever I get together with all the superintendents, I'm the president of the Far West Council of School Superintendents, which is a very austere organization designed to provide something. I don't know what. But when we get together, just having conversation like we're doing here, I bring something home. Right? I mean, somebody's been doing it longer than me, or they did a thing different than I, or you say, well, did anybody ever have this happen? And you can do that as business leaders. You know that. You're already doing it. But we have to be willing then to say, well, I was talking with Nathan, he had this idea, and then, as long as I'm okay with us just getting good stuff done and I'm not worried about getting the credit for it, then we can get it done. But as soon as I have to own it, as soon as it's mine, this is mine, and I'm going to talk to you about mine. Done. Forget it. It's terrible. That's not how, you can't do anything that way. What if at home you did that? You don't think about that. You open up the refrigerator and everything from your family was labeled. Oh, that's Mom's milk. I didn't get I don't have any milk. Mom, my milk. That's crazy. It's not how you do things unless you have an allergy or, whatever. I mean, you get the point. I don't want to beat a dead horse. So we're talking about doing that. How about after-school programs? How about before-school programs? How about all those things? We can work with other agencies and organizations and churches. So here's the kicker. And I'll close. How does a public school cooperate with or share with a church? Because isn't there supposed to be separation of church and state? Well, here's the deal. First of all, that's not in the Constitution. That's just a nice saying. I mean, that's kind of silly. It's like saying, there should be separation between your businesses. Well, maybe, I guess, because we have a building, but I mean, what we do and who we impact and who we work with, we share all that. Right. People walk around. They don't just go to one place and stand there. And so if I'm concerned as a school leader about our community, who else is concerned about our community? The church. Mm-hmm. And which church? Well, whatever one happens to be there, and whoever happens to drive through that's a part of it. So a whole bunch of people. Right. You're my community. I'm your community. You're stuck with me. I need help. I'm glad you're all here. I'm in way over my head. I know stuff, and I can fake it till I make it, and if you give me a chance to talk, I can always blab. But there are times when we need help. And you have to be willing to say, I can't fix it. I'm tired. I quit. I'm done. I'm out. You take care of it today, because I'm so tired. And how often do you get there? But you don't dare admit it, because, well, you got to be. Chuck's got it all together. There's a guy's got it all together. He's the leader. They can't see any weakness. Can't let them smell the blood in the water. You know what? I've found, probably by accident, but I think it's just kind of a good thing, that I'm a more effective leader when people realize I'm just real like them. And so if I get up in front of the whole faculty and staff and I say, well, you know what? I ain't the brightest candle on the cake, but we're just going to keep burning. Let's do this together. I've got some insight. I have a sense of vision. I know where we're going. I'm nobody's fool. But I'm also smart enough to know that without everybody, I ain't nothing. One day, a number of years ago, I was in my office in the middle of the summer, and I was cranking it out. Man, was I getting stuff done. And there were no kids there and no teachers there. And I could have, and I remember saying to myself, if they didn't come back, I could get all this done. And then I said, wait a second. Why am I doing this? You ever get so buried in what it is you're doing and worried about and so self-centered that you forget? You got to step up once in a while. Here's a vision for you. And get your head above the clouds. You're looking around. There's all this trouble. There's trouble everywhere. Everywhere I look, there's trouble, and there's things that I can bump into. But every once in a while, maybe if you put your head up above the clouds and you just kind of go where you really should go and stop kind of worrying about some of this stuff down here, and everything kind of works. And so, separation of church and state, yeah. There's an establishment clause in the Constitution that talks about really what it's preventing is that I would say, well, the Baptist church in Cassadaga can come in and use our facilities, and we're going to work with the Baptist church, and a matter of fact, all children, you should go to the Baptist church. Well, maybe there's a good Baptist church. I can't do that. But I can say, everybody in the community can use the facilities. All you got to do is ask and come on in. We'll shake hands. We'll talk. We'll work together. Now, if you start doing something crazy, like killing puppies or something, then we got to draw the line. But as long as you're doing something that's productive and positive, I don't care if you're an accountant, an architect, a priest, a pastor, whatever you are, come on in. What's your primary interest? Well, we want to help some people in the community because they haven't got their taxes filled out yet. Well, what we'd like to do is work with some kids because they don't have enough clothes and it's getting to be come on in. I don't have to ask them what their mission statement is. I don't have to, it's none of that monkey business. What are you going to do? We're going to help kids? Hey, that lines up with my vision, our mission. That's why we're here. Come on in, use the building. You paid for it anyway. So that's what we're going to do. Now, here's the challenge for y'all. I was from the southern tier. Down in Frewsburg, we'd say stuff like that. We're fixing to go to school. You have to know where you're at before you get crazy and start doing stuff. Don't go running back to your school district or to your church or to your business and say, well, Chuck Leichner said that we could do this here. That's what they're doing over there in Cassadaga. You got to put the emphasis on the right syllable in order to get, yeah, over there to the Cassadaga Valley, they're having church right up there in the school. I don't know if you heard this, but they had one of them there baccalaureates. They said people came into the auditorium there and they said Jesus right out loud. Listen, all those things may be true. Don't tell anybody. Thought we were together in this. I got your back. You got to have mine. So you got to know who you're dealing with. Listen, patience is a virtue. If that's something you'd like to see happen wherever you live, you got to know who you're working with. And be patient and don't try to force anything. Listen, sharing, that's the key. That means it goes both ways. Remember when you were a kid, right, and you wanted the toy that the other kid had and you pushed them down and you took it? That's not sharing. You can't do that. You can't approach a school board. You can't approach a superintendent, a principal, a community. You can't approach another church. You can't approach another business unless you're welcomed in. You have to earn the right to speak. Right? So if you'd like to see some cool things happen, you'd like to have a baccalaureate, you're fixing to have a baccalaureate? Well, you have to have school leadership and a school board and a community and a culture that's ready for that to happen, and that might take 9 years. So don't be in a rush, because once you get your panties in a bunch and everything got to happen right away, you're being selfish. If it's a good thing, time is on the side of right. Always is, always has been, always will be. Just relax. Then go find something else to do. Just work. What is there? Something in that there Bible says, do what your hands find to do? Well, what's in front of you? Do it. Share it. Help somebody else. So it's hard. It's complicated. I'm making light of it. But these are major concerns to me. We don't have a baccalaureate service in that school without me spending some time being a little bit nervous. People followed up and talked to me about it afterwards. It was in the paper. I had community experts come to me. So you're doing something illegal there. And I said, well, that's not what the school attorney told me, because I do everything right. And it was perfectly fine. It happens all over the place in the southern tier. Now, did that change the world? No, it's just a little thing. But we're sharing. We're working together. We're trying to do this as a community. It's good for everybody. It's good for the kids. It's good for me. And if it wasn't, relax. Don't be in a hurry, but be persistent. Be calm and assertive. I think we're done. How was the timing?
1 o'clock, 1:01.
Oh, I went over. Thank you.